This is SportsCenter AM on YouTube. This is Ryan Smith. I'm David Lloyd. The NBA draft getting underway tonight in Brooklyn. And we had some pre-draft deals getting done on Tuesday night.
Yeah, that's right. All eyes will be on Brooklyn tonight. Last night, they were on Manhattan. The Knicks making a rare deal with the Nets, and it's a big one, sending Bojan Bogdanovic 5 first-round picks, a pick swap, and a second for star Brooklyn net Mikal Bridges. Considered one of the NBA's elite 3-and-D guys, Bridges has also never missed a game in his NBA career, playing in 474 straight regular season games and 39 playoff games. Now, with this deal, ESPN Bet has the Knicks entering Tuesday with the 8th shortest odds to win the title next season. Those odds move significantly following the Bridges trade from plus 1,600 to plus 1,000, now tied for the 5th shortest odds to win it all. So for more on this trade, look who is in the studio with us. Senior NBA writer Brian Windhorst. Okay, so Brian, the Knicks unloaded an array of draft picks for Bridges, reuniting him with his Nova teammates. They're even more of the Nova Knicks now. How would you describe New York's approach in this situation?
So if you looked at this trade even a year ago, Ryan, when you see 5 first-round picks and a pick swap for a player like Mikal Bridges, who's an excellent elite-level role player, but a role player, not a superstar, not an all-star, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. But when you look at it from the Knicks' perspective, where they are getting not only a player who fits in beautifully with his ex-college teammates and with what the Knicks need to do to go up against the Boston Celtics, it starts to make more sense. You start to see some cascading reasons down why this player was so valuable to the Knicks, including the fact that under the new rules in the CBA, you just really can't have 3 or 4 guys on your roster making huge salaries. It just doesn't work. Bridges makes just a little over $20 million. Had they traded for Paul George on this money, on this type of deal, it would have made sense. But Paul George literally makes $30 million potentially this year, more than Bridges. Having Bridges enables the Knicks to do all of these other things with those other players. And here's something else. It's also a bet on Jalen Brunson. It's a Jalen, we don't need to go trade for a superstar. You're our superstar. Let's do something to support you.
Oh, that could be huge. Bridges got one of the best contracts in the league. And by the way, for context, the Jazz got 4 first-round picks from Minnesota for Rudy Gobert. At the time, he was a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. So there's a big bet here for the Knicks, trading away 5 first-rounders for Bridges. Now, Bobby Marks is going to have more on this trade coming up. Meanwhile, I want to talk about the Rockets. They also made a deal with Brooklyn to acquire Suns draft picks. What more can you tell us about Houston's thinking?
This is a very big, important move. No players involved. Pretty stunning deal because they didn't have to make this deal now. Think about this. The Nets have just announced to the world they are going through a major tank. They are shutting this down. If you're Houston, you're popping champagne. You're saying, wait a minute, we own the next 2 drafts for the Nets unprotected through a pick and a swap, and they're going into a major tank with 2 potentially really good draft classes? No. Instead, the Rockets make a deal to give those picks back to Brooklyn, give up that optionality, and they do it here in June. They could have done that deal anytime. Why did they do it now? They did it now to entice the Phoenix Suns because they got Phoenix Suns assets, and they are there to say to the Suns, we're ready to do business with you, whether you want to do business today, whether you want to do business in the fall, whether you want to do business in the winter. And clearly, the player we're looking at here is Kevin Durant. I know that Woj has brought up Devin Booker. I don't think Devin Booker has any interest in leaving the Suns. The Durant situation is more interesting. He's got connections to the Rockets. Ime Udoka is his former assistant when he was in Brooklyn. Royal Ivey is one of the closest people he's got in the NBA, has been for years. He's an assistant on the Houston staff. And here's the thing that's most important. I know that these Nets picks are very valuable. The Rockets want to win now. They're looking to improve now. They want to be in the playoffs immediately. That's what this trade enables them to get in position to do.
Oh, this could be the beginning thing of a huge deal. We'll see what happens here. Brian Windhorst with the very latest.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the NBA Draft.
Perhaps you can turn that Bulls thing around.
Well, hopefully that can become true.
The fans of the NBA want a front row seat.
LeBron James.
Always been a dream for me to play in the NBA. I want to be one of the greats.
It happened, baby.
Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum.
Man, I've been dreaming about finally here.
The next generation of stars in our league. Where will they land?
My goodness, human highlight reel.
With the first pick in the NBA draft.
The draft starts tonight. Has the basketball world tilted toward France? Victor Wembanyama, the top pick in last year's draft. Frenchman may go 1-2 in this year's. Zachary Rizachet and Alex Sarr right now projected to go in those spots. The draft in Brooklyn, but the eyes of the basketball world on France. Here's Michelle Steele with more.
First, there was Wemby, Victor Wembanyama, the first Frenchman to go first overall. This year, there's been a French explosion at the top of the NBA draft. Alex Sarr and Zachary Risache could go 1 and 2, and a third player, Tijan Salon, is projected to be a high first-round pick.
I think we have a lot of talent coming out of France. Every single guy that's coming out of France is like gifted, physically gifted, and it just shows like the amount of potential we got over there.
France is the only non-U.S. country to have more than 2 prospects in the 2024 draft, and all 5 of those are within ESPN's top 50 best available players. For Will Weaver, a veteran NBA assistant and a former head coach at Paris basketball in the country's top division, France may not be far from having the best national team in the world.
I certainly don't think anybody's going to be excited to play France this summer. This incredible wellspring of talent that has bloomed in France makes them one of, if not the best teams in the world, not just in 10 years, but for the next 10 years.
Helping to build a tidal wave of talent, an increasingly multicultural society where immigrants have embraced hoops, and a government that invests in training elite athletes across multiple sports, including basketball. But there are intangibles too when it comes to French players on the court.
There's a boldness with French players, and I think the NBA saw that this year with a mild-mannered dude in Victor, who's anything but mild-mannered on the court and certainly not scared to show what makes him so special.
The women's game has also evolved. The WNBA's Dallas Wings took Carla Late 9th overall, one of 2 French players selected top 10. A graduate of Tony Parker Academy, a sports-centric high school in France, the 20-year-old has already been playing in the country's top women's league for a couple of years, experience that will aid her transition to the pros.
I think Carla, having gone through that this past year, that will benefit her, that when she arrives in the W, she'll have that quote unquote pro experience. And then when you really take a closer look, in particular with her, you look for trend, right? She got better and better as her season went along.
I spoke to Lindsay Krasnoff, who wrote the book Basketball Empire, France and the Making of a Global NBA and WNBA, and she's outside Paris now. She told me that public courts are full at all times of day and adds that the French pro prospects we're seeing now, they're just the tip of the iceberg for the talent to come. Sounds like GMs and scouts will likely be shouting Vive la France for the foreseeable future. I'm Michelle Steele, ESPN.
All right, for more on the French connection, we bring in our front office insider, Bobby Marks. And Bobby, kind of an interesting deal here. Alex Sarr was scheduled to work out for the Hawks, who hold the #1 pick, and then that didn't come to pass. How much does that factor into the Hawks' thinking tonight?
Yeah, it's interesting. Usually when Atlanta has a #1 pick, you would want to go there and work out here. For me, and certainly when you talk to teams around the front office, it shouldn't play any role as far as what direction Atlanta goes at #1. They have Sarr's medical information. They've conducted interviews here. He's been well scouted. Remember, David, he played for Overtime Elite, which is based in Atlanta for 2 years. He played in Australia last year here. So if you feel that Alex Sarr is the top player in this draft, you take him. Doesn't matter if he came in or not.
All right, the draft in Brooklyn and Brooklyn making a move. In fact, the Nets and Knicks pull off their first trade together since 1983 as New York picks up Mikal Bridges for a slew of draft picks. Bobby, what struck you about this move?
Well, having been in the front office in Brooklyn, we never made a phone call to New York during my tenure. So I think certainly making a trade with New York, and I think it's 2 teams at 2 different timelines. New York is at a win now, getting to the second round last year. Certainly Mikal Bridges reunites with his Villanova former teammates here. This is a team that certainly the priority now shifts to OG Anunoby. And I think for Brooklyn, they are rebuilding 5 first-round picks as part of this deal. They get control of their own picks back from Houston in 25 and 26. A lot of money next year, but they could potentially have a top 3 or 4 pick next year in next year's loaded draft.
All right, so that's the Nets story. The Knicks, you mentioned Anunoby. They also maybe want to try to sign Isaiah Hartenstein. Both those guys free agents. We'll see if they can get one or both in the fold. Bobby, getting us ready. Draft night. The draft begins tonight in Brooklyn. The 78th annual NBA Draft with a spin. It's now a two-day event. First round tonight, 8 Eastern on ABC, ESPN, and ESPN Deportes from Barclays Center in Brooklyn. The second round tomorrow afternoon, 4 Eastern on ESPN from our Seaport District studios in New York. Again, the Atlanta Hawks on the clock with the number 1 pick. And the top 7 or so in this draft could go 78 different ways. It's really wide open.
They're saying 2 Frenchmen up top. We'll see how that plays out. And then where's Bronny going to go in all of this?
Oh, yeah.
Could be a first rounder, second rounder. Lots of intrigue coming into the draft.